And I was also saying to myself, am I just ungrateful for what I have? So it's also a little bit of that fight, you can say, with yourself of it is okay to recognize that even though you are not unhappy, it doesn't mean you're happy.
Hey there, my name is Dr. Beth Russell, and I want to know, what would you do if you were not afraid? Right now, what would your life, your job, your relationships look and feel like if you could be unapologetically you? What's holding you back? This podcast is for anyone that wants to make a change but isn't sure where to start. Let's look inward together and let's talk about you and me, our mental health, our self-care, inner and outer selves, and all that makes us, well, us. It's time to get real, feel the feels, challenge what's holding us back, and connect. This is the Authentic and Brave podcast.
I'm excited to welcome Daisy Hillbrands to the podcast. Daisy works as a transformative coach. Her practice is exclusively online with her individual clients, and she herself is a digital nomad and part-time van traveler with a cat. Daisy is no stranger to changing directions in life to follow a more authentic and brave path. She recognizes that sometimes, even when you have checked all the boxes of a good life, it's not what makes you happy. Daisy helps others clarify what they want and that change is possible no matter what age you are. Daisy, welcome to the Authentic and Brave podcast.
Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. It's wonderful to talk with you. And I'd just love to know what drew you to being on the podcast.
Yeah, it was exactly the title of being both authentic and brave, because it took me quite some time before I got there. And I was a little bit, okay, I didn't change my life around before I was past my 40s. I think other people need to hear that it is possible to do that.
I love that. I love that. Yes. Because so many people think, oh no, I have to have it all figured out by my 40s and can't make any changes. And that's just not true, right? As we get older, we recognize we don't have it all figured out.
Definitely. And also, even though you have checked all the boxes, that doesn't mean it's what you want to have.
Yes. Right. And it's okay to admit that.
Yeah, and it can be hard to admit that, because for me, for example, I had checked all the boxes, nice career, nice apartment, nice life, nice social life and things like that. And there was still something missing. And I was also saying to myself, am I just ungrateful for what I have? So it's also a little bit of that fight, you can say, with yourself of it is okay to recognize that even though you are not unhappy, it doesn't mean you're happy.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Just because you're not unhappy doesn't mean that you're happy. Tell me a little bit about your story. You said you didn't recognize it till after you were 40.
So yeah, it took some time to recognize what it was that was feeling off, because like I said, I have done everything right. I had the good education. I had the good career. Everything on paper looked just nice. It started with a little bit of a nagging feeling of there must be other ways of living than just doing the norm, so to speak. And I would say that one started in my mid-30s, this feeling of, hey, there must be something else than just the norm. And I think I was 41 when I really took action on it and said, hey, I want to look into my career. I want to look into my life. I want to see what it is that feels off, even though everything seems right.
So how did you go about it? How did you go about tapping into that knowing and that feeling?
First, I got stationary, and that was before my 40s or in my late 30s. I got a stationary to another country. And I was a little bit, this is what I have been looking for. Now this feeling of finding the right thing has finally come, and it didn't. So I was very excited. I was very happy by moving abroad. I really enjoy being abroad. And also when the company I worked for wanted me back to headquarters, I also said no and left the company because I wanted to stay in the country. But that also got me to think, okay, if it's not the career that is the right thing, because otherwise I would have gone back, then what can I do instead of that? And what I found out was I wanted to have freedom in my choice of working. So that was really what I was missing. That was that freedom in choice of working, in the sense of I have always been very flexible in my approach to working. I have never mind working on weekends if it meant I could take off during a work day. So that very scheduled 9 to 5 always seemed like a restriction to me. So why should it be like that? So it was really when I discovered that, hey, I want to have a working life. There is not 9 to 5, but also where it's pretty much is my choice of when I work, that I found out what it was I was missing.
So really giving into allowing what you were feeling, what you were thinking to be true, and then following that.
Yeah. So what I did was I said, okay, if everything is possible, what do I wanna do? And if anything was possible, what I wanna do was traveling much more. I wanted to be able to work from anywhere. I want to see Europe by a van. And right now I'm sitting in Spain with the van next to me and on a podcast with you. There is part of my work, so to speak, also.
Yeah.
Are you tired of feeling held back by fear? It's time to break free and live life unafraid. Are you ready to get real? Spend some time journaling and coloring to face what's holding you back? Introducing the 30 Days to Unafraid Coloring Affirmation Journal. Color away and process your fears with empowering mandalas for self-care. This journal is your roadmap to conquering fear and embracing change with confidence. Don't let fear control your life any longer. Order your copy of 30 Days Unafraid today and take the first steps towards a life without limits. Visit www.authenticandbrave.com/unafraid or find the journal 30 Days Unafraid Coloring Affirmation Journal on Amazon. It's time to unleash your potential and live unafraid. Get your copy now.
Now, when you realized this is what you wanted to do, did you get judgment or did you struggle at all with judging, like, this is really what I want to do? Because it isn't the norm.
I haven't felt any judgment from anybody. I have got from previous coworker or a little bit of that one, why are you leaving such good a career? Not understanding. So that I have definitely got, but I don't feel with a judgment in it, just more a wondering of why is this not good? But yeah, it definitely requires some work on yourself also, because I went from a very good monthly salary to now I'm working as a coach. So I have to find my client myself. My income is not the same from month to month. Depends on how many clients I have. It did take quite some adjustment to not having what felt like a security of having this fixed amount each month. But yeah, it was also that feeling of I needed this security who hold me onto a job where I was not happy.
Yeah, I think that part you're talking about, that security, you had a job, you had the security, you had the paycheck, but you didn't have the security in yourself of this is what I'm called to do, or this is what I really want. And so you weren't willing to sacrifice who you are to stay in a job that was okay.
Yeah, and I did love my job. I did love what I was doing. I just didn't like the circumstances of how I could perform that job. And I also think that was one of the reasons why it took me some time to say, hey, I need to let go of this. Yeah, and that I figure out also after I took the step, some of the things I thought I would be missing with letting go of the security, for example, of being capable of buying those very nice, too expensive shoes, which I'm not doing anymore. I don't really miss it. I thought it was a thing where I would miss the freedom of being capable of buying what I desired. And I don't. That came as a surprise for me. And it also came as a surprise for me when of going from the steady paycheck to a more unsure income. One of the things I did do was I really went over my bank statements from 6 months back and really looked down to what do I spend my money on. And also realizing how many things I was spending money on I didn't need, just like subscription to streaming service. So I went down to one and say, when I'm tired with one, then I swap to another one.
So kind of looking at what's a necessity, what you really want to be spending your money, your time, your energy on.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about being a coach.
Yeah, I come from a background in science. I'm a microbiologist by trade. So I was looking at if I shouldn't take building onto that, which would be very difficult in my opinion, because you do need a laboratory to work, and having your own laboratory was a little bit out of the question. So I look on what did I enjoy besides that. So I have taught classes. I have been mentors for refugees. So that one of helping people to find their ways, this I do like. So I started to take an ICF approved coach training. So I could be part of the International Coaching Federation. And I took a training in what is called transformative coaching, because that is also a coaching type that is science-based. And yeah, I am still a science person, so to speak.
Yep.
So yeah, I took a training that is very much science-based. So now I work with individuals, and I don't have a niche, so to speak, but I do see the common trait in those who seek me out as a coach. It is also people who have chosen to live a life outside the norm in different ways. Either they have left their home country because the culture in their home country didn't fit with their personality, or they have chosen to move abroad, or they have made the decision of being a digital nomad like me. So it is those who find me normally. And I also coach people on finding out what is the missing piece. So those who feel there is a missing piece, but they are unsure of what it is.
Hey everyone, are you tired of dealing with complicated checkout processes when you're trying to sell products online? If so, you're in luck, because Samcart has got you covered. Samcart is an all-in-one platform that makes it easy to create and manage your online store, with features like one-click upsells, order bumps, and more. And the best part, as a listener of this podcast, you can get started with Samcart today and receive a special discount code by using our affiliate link. So head on over to www.authenticandbrave.com/Samcart and start selling like a pro. Trust us, your customers will thank you for it. Get started today.
How do you go about starting someone, or what are some of the tools that you use to help someone really make that transformation?
Yeah, one of the tools I very much like is a tool that is called the Wheel of Life. So it is a quite well-known exercise. It's developed in the 60s and again got it updated around the 80s by two different researchers. And it is where you choose the areas of your life that is the most important to you. And it's really high top area. So it can be career, it can be personal development, it can be finances. And then you rate these from 1 to 10 on how good you think they feel for you. And then you start to look at what would you like to improve and how could you improve it. But the important part in using this tool is that you do take what is most important for you, and also those areas where you're doing really well, because then you already know, you can at least start to dive into, okay, from where I rate 10, what is it I like about this with my life? Because then you can use that to say, okay, if I really like, for example, to have freedom in my life, and I rate my career very low, is it because I don't have freedom in my career?
So looking values as well as the areas of importance.
Yes. Yeah, and it is an interesting exercise. I do it every year, and I do one for a year, and then I review that one every 3 months. And I can choose different areas from year to year, depending on what is important for me in that year to come. But you can also choose to have the same Wheel of Life for 10 years and just see what happens.
So you can use the tool in different ways.
Yes. And it is also one I use with my coaching clients, especially when I have those clients who comes and feel there is missing something and they don't know what.
Yeah.
then I always start with that exercise.
Mm-hmm. How common do you think it is that people feel like something is missing?
I think it's quite common, but I also think there's two types of feeling of missing.
Mm-hmm.
There's the one who will pass in a couple of months, perhaps because you are struggling in some area right now. And then there's those more profound feeling of, hey, I do need to change something fundamental in my life.
Mm-hmm. So how do you differentiate that?
I would say it's a little bit of how long have the feeling been there.
Mm-hmm.
So if it has been roughly, and this is just roughly, but for more than a year, then it's probably is something more fundamental you are missing in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Also look at, are you struggling with something right now? Because we do have a tendency, if we are in a struggle, wishing for something better, which is a natural reaction.
Mm-hmm.
But it's perhaps not at that point, you should change everything around.
Mm-hmm. So recognizing
So it is
that.
a little bit a joke of the midlife crisis. Yeah, it is a real thing for some people. I definitely agree on that. But there is also some people where they just feel the need to happen something and just out of a spray of the moment unsatisfaction with what they have.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I will also say, if you are unsure, talk with family, talk with friends, or hire a coach or a therapist, but start talking to people about these thoughts you have.
I love that. Just begin talking about it. Don't hold it all in. Don't feel like you have to be alone in questioning or whatever the feeling is. You know, talking about it and beginning to process it can take us in a different direction and free us up.
Yeah, definitely. And also quite often, for example, a good friend will see something you don't see yourself. Mm-hmm. So just talking about it to a good friend, then they can also sometimes just give the question you feel you can't figure out.
I love that. I love that. So Daisy, where will people find you if they want to hear more and they want to work with you? How do they find you?
I would say the easiest way is finding me through my website. There is hilbrands.coach.
Okay.
And also, if they are curious about the Wheel of Life, if they go to hilbrands.coach tools, there is a free template they can download with a direction to how to use the tool.
And I will link that to our webpage as well so that people can go right on your website and get that.
Yeah, and I am also on other social medias, but yeah, either Google my name, it's quite unique, so you should probably find me, or like I said, go through hilbrands.coach.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking time out. And people on the podcast can't see it, but it is a beautiful day behind you. I can see, and the sun is out as you sit by your van. And I thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful.
Thank you so much for listening to the Authentic and Brave podcast. I want to remind our listeners that the content of this podcast is not a substitute for professional therapy or medical advice. The information shared in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. If you are experiencing mental health issue or any other medical concern, we strongly encourage you to seek help from a licensed professional. The National Alliance on Mental Illness, also called NAMI, helpline is a great resource and can be reached at 1-800-950-NAMI or 1-800-950-6264.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Authentic and Brave podcast. If you want more, head over to the AuthenticandBravePodcast.com for show notes and sign up for the mailing list so you'll never miss an episode. If you're looking for inspiration, connection, and people like you and me, be sure to join my exclusive community on Facebook. The link's waiting for you at AuthenticandBravePodcast.com. This is Dr. Beth Russell signing off. See you next time.